tripod.
Let's go to the right a little bit. Okay.
That's not all that funny, is it? Especially if it's happened to you. Because let me just ask you straight up, how many of you refuse to read instructions? That's some honest people around here. You know, when you're putting stuff together, you just like to, get all the parts and see if you can put them all together. It's like a challenge, right? If you don't read the little booklet and whatever. I'll raise my hand to that one. Sometimes it's kind of like a challenge, right? How does this part fit here and stuff like that? Is it just guys? Yeah, it is just guys. I guess guys, we don't like to read directions. We just like to start, Just get started. Open the little baggies and let's get started. Because directions are for people who want to get it right the first time, right? We don't want to get it right the first time. That's the fun part, right? Figuring it out. Directions are for people who don't have the joy or know the joy of reassembling. That's a cool thing to do, right? Directions are for people who don't have time to start over. So why read the directions? So for those of us that were honest here this morning, we're that person. The person that just likes to start. Just get started, right? And say directions. I don't need directions. No problem, man, I got this. Which really means that it's going to take a little longer than expected, right? And it means that we're going to have extra parts, or we're missing parts, or, if everything else fails, some glue, some nails, and a hammer, man, they do wonders when it's time to put furniture together, right? You can put anything together with those three things. See, when we do that, it's like, why don't we read the directions, right? It's every time we tell ourselves. But hey, don't be too critical, right, of us direction following people, if you want to say that. Because if not all of us, most of us, if not all of us, we've done that. We've done something like that, right? We've sometime in our life, like, for instance, when you're assembling Christmas toys, anybody ever done that? And for the children here in the auditorium, Santa puts part of the toys up in the North Pole. They put them together, but sometimes he requires for parents to be able to finish them out when they arrive at the house. So how many of you have ever done that? Help Santa out, right? It's Christmas Eve. The sun is about to come out. Who has time for instructions, right? Well, I got to get this thing before the kid gets up. So consequently, you got to come up with some very good stories. Honey, yeah, I know that all your friends' Barbie homes have roofs, but listen, you got the special model. It's a convertible model, so it's cool. Or you're like, honey, I really don't know if we should hook up the gas to this grill that I just put on together. Or why don't we go old school and let's use some charcoal, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't follow the directions. So here's the deal. We've all done that, like put stuff together and it doesn't work and it's wrong, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? It's okay if it's a Barbie house. It's okay if it's a barbecue grill. But it's not okay when it's our life, when we don't read the directions and our life messes up. So in this series, I want us to talk about how to make sure that next time won't be like last time. And this can apply to whatever, right? It can apply to whatever. If you're getting into a new relationship, if you're getting into a marriage for the first time, or you're getting remarried, if you just lost your job and you're looking for a new one, or if you just flunked out of school, whatever that's making you, have to start over in an area in your life. And these could be start overs that are your fault, my fault, These could be start overs that are somebody else's fault. And just a side note here, isn't it always somebody else's fault, right? I mean, sometimes it's a little bit my fault and a little bit their fault. For the most part, it's their fault, right? It was their fault. And now I'm talking about any kind of start over you're having to go through. This should be a good series for you. And hopefully, you can make sure that next time won't be like last time. So here we go. Hear me out here. We learn from our mistakes in the areas that matter least. We learn from our mistakes in the areas that matter least. Like, for instance, like board games, right? Sports, hobbies, texting. I've learned that, you're like, oh no, who did I just tell I love? It's like, wow. Or you send it out on Twitter and it goes out, I don't know where it goes, but it goes a lot. I enjoyed last night, send. My goodness, who did I send that to, right? That's why I don't tweet or I don't do that kind of thing, because it gets me in trouble. So there are things that we do them wrong one time and we learn. We either stop doing them or we learn how to do them, right? So we learn from our mistakes in the areas that matter least. But we repeat our mistakes in the areas that matter most. Like our finances and our relationships and our, raising kids and our job and at school. And after we make those kind of mistakes a few times and suffer the consequences, we all find ourselves asking this very important, popular question. This is a fill in the blank. When will I learn, right? We ask ourselves that time and time. Now, this is a very important question. And the reason that it's very important is because of the word I. Because the common denominator in all of your mistakes, the common denominator in all of my mistakes, it's you. It's me, right? We follow ourselves everywhere. In our biggest oops moment, there we are. In all of our, I can't believe that I did that again moment, there we are. And for some reason, we don't seem to learn as quickly in the areas that matter most as we do in the areas that matter least. And listen, life has so much unavoidable pain as it is. It's just reality. Even if we would make all the right choices all the time, all the right decisions all the time, there is still going to be some pain and some disappointment that comes with life. Things are just going to go wrong sometimes. That's just life. So why in the world would we want to add more pain to an otherwise somewhat painful existence? Why would we want to do these kind of things to ourselves? I mean, I think if we would be able to look at our life like at a movie, rewind it and see the things that we've done, we've seen some past mistakes that we've done, I'm sure that there would be some that we would probably say, now that one, yeah, I could have avoided that one. Because we're looking at what we did and I could have seen that and I could have avoided that. So, in this series, starting over, beginning next week, we're going to be talking about 3 things that we absolutely have to do if we want next time to be better than last time. But to get us there, today I want us to look at 3 myths or 3 assumptions that we all make. And as soon as we see these on the screens, you're probably going to be saying, oh yeah, I know what you're saying. I've done that. I've assumed that, or I'm assuming that right now. And these are not deep philosophical things, These are things that an average Joe like me, I have to tell you things I understand, because if not, I mumble and jumble, right? These are things that a guy like me can understand. This is what happened. You see, sometimes when we're thinking of starting something over, we're having to start something over, we automatically start assuming things. Sometimes we do it consciously, sometimes we do it subconsciously, and sometimes we need someone or something, right, to be able to surface these assumptions so that we can see them, that we're operating by. So as we talk about these assumptions, part of the experience that I want us to have, and hopefully we can have, is to say, well, duh, yeah, I've done that, or I'm doing that right now. Because if we're unaware of the assumptions that we're making, will continue to make these assumptions, and they'll continue to drive our decisions. So let's talk about these assumptions. Then at the end, I'm gonna throw in a verse because, well, we are in church, and I got to throw in a verse, that's part of it. So if you're like a big-time scholar, you might leave a little disappointed because we're not going to go like deep into Scripture today, right? But if you're new around here, you might be like, you love it because we're just going to talk. We're just going to talk about life, things that happen to us every single day. But whatever the cause may be, I want us all to hopefully be on the same page as we talk about what it means to start over. So here are the three myths or the three assumptions. The first one is the experience myth that says that experience makes me wiser, right? We say stuff like, well, because I just went through this or I went through that, now I'm wiser. Let me just straight out tell you, experience does not make us wiser. It doesn't. It makes us older. It makes us grayer. It makes us tired. It makes us poor. It makes us grumpy sometimes. It makes us lonely. But experience alone does not make us wiser. And the reason this is so important is because so many times we find ourselves saying stuff like, yeah, I know, been there, done that. You don't have to tell me that, right? I'm ready to move on. I'll never do that again because I had a bad experience and I've learned from it. I've learned my lesson, so I'm moving on. But please, listen to me. We need to know this. Experience alone does not make us wiser. A one-time experience does not prepare us for the next time any more than we were prepared the first time. It just doesn't. But here's the key. Experience does not make us wiser, but evaluated experience makes us wiser. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be learning some tools to help us evaluate our experiences. How can we learn from those things and put them into practice so that I don't make the same mistake again? Like I said earlier, this is not going to be something deep and philosophical. It's just real. And you know it's true, and I know it's true. We see it right in front of our eyes. We all have, we all have people or friends that we've seen them, and they continue to make the same mistake over and over and over and over. They never seem to learn anything from their previous experiences. And isn't it true that it's always easy to see it in someone else than on yourself? It is, right? We see it. But so experience, we know that it doesn't guarantee us anything except possibly losing or wasting some time. But evaluated experience, now that's a game changer because it can set us up for success the next time. The other myth is the I know better myth. This one says, since I know better, I'll do better. This is the assumption that we make. Now that we've gone through this experience and we know the difference between right and wrong, and now that we know better, we'll automatically do better. But knowing better doesn't equal doing better. It just doesn't. And listen, it's kind of like we're born with this, right? You remember when your parents used to tell you this kind of stuff, or maybe when you became a parent and you started telling your kids, you would try and correct them, and what would we say and what do they say? I know. Yes, I know. Well, you came in late yesterday. Yes, I know. Like saying, I know, Mom. I know that. And listen, since I know, don't worry about it. I'll do better next time. But our parents knew and we knew that knowing better doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do better the next time, right? And listen, it gets worse. Let's say that you do know better. Well, knowing better does not equal the ability to do better the next time. And here's why this is so critical when it comes to starting over. We say, I had this experience and I'm wiser now and I know better, so I'm sure I'll do better. But there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee because in most cases when we know better doesn't mean we have the ability, the power, the self-control to do better. So simply knowing better doesn't mean we're going to do any better the next time unless we evaluate our experience and we make some personal changes from what we've learned. And then that's a game changer. That's why for so many of you, your last bad relationship reflects your current bad relationship. That's going to carry on into your next bad relationship. And all this time you're thinking, what is wrong with all these people that I'm dating, right? They're all, it's like, you pick them. Maybe you're a bad picker. I don't know. They pick you. I don't know, right? All this time you've been saying, I know, I've learned my lesson. I know better. I'm never going to do that again. Meanwhile, all your friends are telling you, why are you going out with that loser? Oh, well, he's different. Really? They're seeing it. You can't see it. Listen, knowing better doesn't mean you'll do better. Knowing better doesn't mean you have the strength, the power, the self-control to do better. Knowing better and doing better, they're two different things, totally different things. And in order for us to ensure that next time it's going to be better than last time, we have to know that. We have to know that. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, I blew it. I messed up, so now that I know that I blew it, and now I know what I did, what must I do now before the next time to make sure that it's actually going to be better this next time? Here's a third myth, the time myth. This is probably the toughest one. Time is against me. The clock is ticking. I'm not getting any younger. You've said that right. Opportunities are coming and opportunities are going. You know, this is coming and this is going. All the people my age, all my friends are doing this and this and that. You know, we start thinking that we're losing time, that we're wasting time. We say, I've learned my lesson. I know better. You know, I'm ready to jump back and restart and start dating again, and I'm ready to learn. I've learned my lesson. I can move on. I'll never do that again. I've got to get with it because the time is clicking. Time is my enemy. That is absolutely false. That is a false assumption that we make. Of all the myths, the assumptions, this is one of the most destructive one. Because when we get in a hurry, we make stupid mistakes, don't we? Listen, as odd as it may sound, time is our friend, not our enemy, when it comes to starting anything over. And here's why. See, when we've gone through something very difficult and we've gotten hit and we've gotten hurt, whether it was our fault or somebody else's fault, the truth is that we're a bit off balance. We get off balance. And before we make another big life-changing decision, we need to find our balance. Our emotions are like a temperature. They go up and they come down. But often, they don't come down as fast as they go up when we get hurt or something happens. And you know, so we're dealing with a little bit of anger still. We're dealing with a little bit of jealousy, of resentment, of hurt still, and either stuff that we don't even know about. So we're off balance. You know, we still might be dealing with that pain. We are in no condition to make a life-changing decision. It's just like our body. When our body our temperature goes up, it's telling us that something is wrong. Something's wrong, and we need to take care of it. Our emotions are the same way. When our emotional temperature goes up, it's because something is wrong. Something is not right, especially if it never comes down and it stays up quite a bit. We need to take care of it. Here's the thing. See if you can relate to this. When we are in pain physically, we become very self-absorbed. We don't think about anything else but the pain that we're feeling. You know, and that happens to us emotionally as well. And it's not your fault or my fault. That's just the nature of pain. That's the way we react to pain. When we're physically hurting from a migraine or an ulcer, or you just had a surgery or something, the last thing you want is for somebody to walk into the room and ask you this difficult question that's going to make you think. You want to cover yourself with a blanket and not think about anything until that pain goes away. It's not that we're jerks or anything. It's just that, we're self-absorbed because of the pain. We can't help that. It's the nature of pain. Emotional pain is the same thing, but we are not as aware of it. When we're hurting emotionally, you're not as aware of when you hurt really, really bad and you know, man, something's really wrong. When we're emotionally hurt, we can't feel the depth of the hurt that we have sometimes. Here's where you can see it though. You ever notice you have somebody, a friend or an acquaintance, and they're going through a tough time, so anytime you try to start a conversation with them, the conversation always ends up being what? You start talking about what they're going through, right? Their problem, their situation. You see this a lot in small groups, right? There's always that person in the small group. And, they start talking about the subject in play, but all of a sudden, they gravitate and they start talking about their thing, their dilemma, what they're going through. They are self-absorbed, and they don't even know it. I mean, they leave the group, wow, tonight's topic was awesome. Didn't you love it? You're inside like, that's the same thing you said last week, man. They don't know it because they're self-absorbed. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the dynamics of a small group. It gives you the feeling, the opportunity to feel that there's people around you when you're going through a painful time. It's part of the healing process. So if that's you, right, just keep going to your group and keep annoying people. That's all right. Soon you'll get over it, and then somebody else is going to annoy you. So it's just kind of a circle. It goes all the way around. Here's my point. Self-absorbed people make self-absorbed decisions. They just do. I just do. You do. We do. We can't help that. So jumping into whatever's next in our life without allowing the temperature to come down before we find our balance is a very dangerous thing to do. That's when we make stupid mistakes in our lives. You see, when we're healthy, we have clarity. And when we have clarity, we make better decisions. We're thinking straight. And until we have clarity, we have no business making life-changing decisions. And to get clarity, that takes time. You got to give it time. And when we wait long enough, we're able to hear and we're able to see things that we can't hear and see right now. And it's not our fault. We can't hear and see them, because we're not ready yet. We haven't calmed down. The temperature is still rising. We haven't, found the balance. But there's some things that we need to hear and we need to see before we can move on to whatever is next in our lives. When we wait long enough, whatever that means for you, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, 10 years, I don't know. But when we wait long enough, we'll be able to hear the people we can't hear right now. They're trying to talk to us. They're trying to speak into our lives, but we can't hear them. And it's not that we don't want to. We're just not ready. Time is our friend when we've been hurt. Time is our friend when we're trying to start over. Even though sometimes or most times it feels like it's our enemy. I'm losing time. I got to move on. And I know what you're thinking right now. Dude, that's good stuff. But my situation is different, though. I mean, you got to know, if you knew my situation, I need to jump into my next step. I just got to do it. Listen to me. You're wrong. You're wrong. Time is your friend. You're trying to rush because you're convinced that your situation is different. And I don't want to hurt your feelings or nothing, but yes, you might be unique, but your circumstances, they're not. You're just a version of a story that has been lived out thousands and thousands of times by people that have lived through what we're living through right now here on earth. And because you're right in the heat of it all, you're emotional and you're in pain, you're totally absorbed by it, and you don't even know it. And you're in no position to make a life-changing decision right now. You can't do that. I can't do that. And as hard as this might sound, if you want next time to be better than last time, you need to wait. You need to wait. Now here's the Bible part of this teaching. When you look at the Bible, there's so many examples, so many people that we read about the Bible, and most of the people that God used significantly in the Bible, they all had a first chance, and then they blew it, and then they get a second chance, right? And so when you read these stories, one of the things that's hard when we read the stories that all of these stories, between the time of the bad decision and the time of the second chance, there's always a gap in the middle. And there's a period of time from a year to 2 years to 8 to 10 to 12 up to 40 years and more. Well, that's encouraging, right? But that's not what I want you to focus. It's not like you got to wait 40 years like Moses did or whatever, But what I want you to focus on is that all these people in the Bible, after they went through their tough time and they came out on the other side, they all came out with two things. They came out with direction, and they came out with humility. And here's the thing. People, us, if we go through that tough time and we allow God during the in-between time to really, really help us through it, as opposed to saying, I'm wasting time, I've learned my lesson, never mind, I just got to move on, I've been there, done that, I know better, I'll do better, Here's what I've been able to see in my life and even in other people's life. There is always more time in the in-between than we are comfortable with. We don't want to wait. We want to move things along. I'm getting older, I can't be wasting time, I got to move. But when we get it right, you come out on the other side with a sense of direction that you didn't have when you went in on this other bad side. You come out saying stuff like, man, I wouldn't trade anything for the lessons that I've learned during this in-between time. You come out saying stuff like, I'm such a better person after going through what I just went through. When we handle the in-between time well, we come out on the other side with a sense of direction and a sense of humility that is going to launch us then into the next new destination that our lives needs to take. And God's involved with it, so we know that we're going the right direction. Now, listen to me. This is not natural. It's not easy. Our inner being is telling us, no, just move. You've already learned your lesson. Move. Come on, get on with your life. It's not easy, but it is the best thing that we can do. Time is our friend. When we do that, then we allow God to add value to our past. It doesn't matter how bad our past has been, but when we let God work with us in the in-between, He adds value to the junk that we were messed up in the back, a part of our life, instead of it being just a complete waste of life. He adds value to that. And here's why this is so important. See, us as human beings, when we start anything, when we're young and we're ambitious and we want to do things, we have dreams of doing so many things. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have the greatest marriage. We're going to get along. We're going to be so passionate with each other. We're going to have kids, the greatest kids in the world. They're going to be smart, well-behaved, good-looking. We're going to be the perfect family, the envy of the neighborhood. Or you might be like, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go to this university and this other university, I'm going to get a degree, a doctorate, a master's, I'm going to go to business school, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. We all do that. We all have dreams, ambitions, goals, and we should. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's the problem, and I don't think there's any way around it. When we start out, everything we ask for is for us, right? God, help me to get good grades. Help me to find a spouse. Help me to find the perfect job or the perfect career. Like I said, nothing wrong with that. But when we start getting a little older, and we start getting a little bit beat up by life, we start realizing that life is not perfect. There are no perfect marriages. There are no perfect kids. Yeah, not even yours. They're not. There are no perfect families, no perfect jobs, no perfect churches. Life is just messy. It's messy. And here's the thing. When you're kind of dusting yourself off because life just beat you up, whatever that means for you. And listen, I'm not saying that you're never going to be able to be successful in whatever you venture out to do. I just mean when some of the messiness of life hits us, if we would learn to allow God to do something in that in-between time before we move into something new, we will move into the next phase and, season of our lives with a sense of direction. Okay, I've learned that. I'm never going to do that again. God has shown me that. Now I can use that to leverage me for the future. If you're here and you really haven't made a choice to be a Jesus follower, I know it's kind of weird when you hear us goofy Jesus followers say stuff like, I just feel like God is teaching me something and guiding me through this, showing me in whatever. But this is what happens when you trust God with your life. And when anybody allows God to do something as they're starting over, whatever it is. And there's also a sense of humility that says, sure, we're going to go and we're going to try hard and we're going to set goals and we're going to do our best. But you come to realize that not everything hinges on me. There's something else there that I got to get a hold of. And when I get a hold of that, it helps me go into my next phase. I mean, you might know one of those weird people, right? Might be sitting next to one. You might be one of those weird people. I just hope that, if you're going through a tough time, a transitional time, a starting over time in your life right now, I hope that you are, or that you can become one of these weird people. Because next time can be better than last time. And I'll leave you with this Bible verse, and we'll pick it up next week. This guy that I'm going to read this verse from the Bible, it's a guy named Paul, and he was a guy who certainly had his share of ups and downs and in-betweens in his life, but he was able to see God leverage all that for good in his life. And in Romans chapter 8, he says, and we know that in all these things, he was like certain, we know, we're confident, all things. In all these things, that means whatever has happened to you that was your fault or somebody else's fault, whatever somebody did to you, God's grace is as big as anything that has happened to us. And I know that sometimes that's easier said than done, but whatever has happened to you, whatever has been done to you, God's grace is bigger than that. It's bigger than that. God works, he says. And this is so cool. It means that when I can take a breath, when I have confidence that all things work together and that God works, I can take a breath. I can back up a little bit. I can hit the pause button. That means that if I can say, just because I've gone through an experience doesn't mean I'm wiser. Just because I know better doesn't mean I'm going to do better. If we allow him to, God will work through and in the roughest segments of our lives, as bad as they may seem. That weekend, that moment that you just cannot get it out of your head. Paul is saying God can work in all those things, including that. Including that. And we'll talk about that next week a little bit more. God wants to use all things, not just the good things, all things, the messy things, everything about you, everything about me. And this is just an opinion, but if we don't allow God to use all things of our lives, if we're not open with God and give him everything we have, I think all those things will come back and they'll haunt us. There'll be a memory in our head. You remember that? You remember that? You remember that? But when we let God, we allow God to use all things, all those things will show up in the future and will potentially benefit us and benefit somebody else. You remember that? You remember how I let you get through that and how I helped you and how I leveraged that? And now you can tell somebody that's going exactly through what you went through, how I helped you go through that. So now it benefits somebody else. It says, for the good, God works for the good of those who love Him. Those who love Him. Those who say, I want your way more than my way. You're God. I'm not. Who have been called according to His purpose. God can leverage purpose out of anything that has happened, if we let Him, if we allow Him to. But if we rush, if we just move on, and if we think that we've learned what we had to learn and we have nothing else to learn, then there's nothing there to evaluate and to help us move on to the next stage in our life and do better the next time. We'll simply have another experience like the other one we had, and possibly learn nothing from it. But here's the good news. Next time can be better than last time. But not because we want to. We all want that. But because we're going to plan for it. We're going to plan for it, and we're going to get God involved in the things, in the situation, and we're going to plan for it. And listen, the next 3 weeks are so critical. If you can, don't miss them. We're going to learn how to plan for it. How to plan for next time to be better. How can we get away with all these myths? How do away with them? Just because I had an experience doesn't mean I've learned anything. Just because I know better doesn't mean I'm going to do better. Just because I'm in a hurry doesn't mean I have to be in a hurry. See, when it seems that time is wasting, maybe God is using that time to work and prepare a better future for you, a better future for me. We're in a hurry, but He's saying you got to wait. Listen, I believe it. I hope you believe it. That next time, it can be better than the last time. Lord, I thank you today. God, there's so many people sitting here in this auditorium and so many different stories, so many different hurts, so many people that probably are starting over and it's their third time and they've made the same mistake. I just pray, God, that as we go through this series, that we can learn, God, together of how we can plan for the next time to be better than the last time. And how we can learn that you want to leverage, you want to use everything about us, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff, the stuff we don't want to tell anybody. You want to use that to benefit us and even to benefit other people in the future, God. But we got to give it to you. We got to let you work through everything. I just pray for someone right now that's going through a tough time because they don't understand why every time they get into a relationship, it ends up like this. God, hopefully they can learn that next time can be better if you're involved in it. I thank you, God, and I pray these things in your name. Amen and amen. Hey, thanks for coming. If you guys need to talk to somebody or pray with us, we'll be up here.